Joey Aguilar and Ty Simpson are clearly the two best quarterbacks in the SEC this season. One's getting love for the Heisman, the other's getting disrespected.
You are Locked On Vols, your daily podcast on the Tennessee Volunteers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into it, your Thursday morning Locked On Vols. We are moving on throughout this third Saturday in October content week. We've had a lot of great guests on the show. Josh Ward yesterday. We did our Locked On crossover with Luke Robinson earlier in the week. Gonna have Boogie on tomorrow. Gonna do Throwback Thursday here today, talking about one of the greatest Tennessee-Alabama games in the history of this rivalry. It's been so much fun, and we're continuing right on with that here on a Thursday show. Again, Throwback Thursday, Nealon Prescourt, Noah Taylor gonna join us in segment 3. Germie Bernard, trash talk, ? We're gonna discuss his comments in segment number 2. Second straight week, there's been potentially some bulletin board material out there. Will it make a difference? And then here in segment number 1, Joey Aguilar versus Ty Simpson, 2 very good quarterback. Which quarterback's playing better? And why isn't one quarterback, Aguilar, getting the respect like Ty Simpson's getting? All that and more here on a Thursday show. I'm your host, Cain. Really enjoyed doing this show with you every single day, weekday mornings when you wake up. Appreciate you guys for being here and making Locked On Vols your first listen, your first watch each and every single morning. We're a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it is your team every single day. Everydayers could not do the show without you. And a big shout out to our friends over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today and enjoy everything that is FanDuel. So, Ty Simpson and Joey Aguilar, again, statistically, just like we all drew it up, right, in the offseason. The two best quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference, right? Move over Arch Manning, that was crowned king before he even, took a legit snap as the starting quarterback for Texas. Lenora Sellers, I already said Arch Manning. DJ Lagway, early season struggles in a big way. Garrett Nussmeier's been injured pretty much all year long. Those were the quarterbacks that everybody was talking about coming into the season. Now, it's been a lot of Joey Aguilar. It's been a lot of Ty Simpson. It's been a lot of Trinidad Chambliss a little bit from Ole Miss here lately. There's a lot of decent quarterbacks in this play. John Mateer, I knew I was forgetting somebody. John Mateer certainly was getting hyped up, and he was playing like it before his injury. He had a really bad game against Texas, no doubt. Marcel Reed's not getting a lot of respect, but he's having a really good year. And then of course Taylor Green, we know all about him from last week. But just like we all drew it up, statistically, Joey Aguilar and Ty Simpson have been the two best quarterbacks in the SEC. I say that in jest because obviously Aguilar, his story here, it's been well documented and how it's one of the greatest stories in college football this year, but he was getting no hype or no respect entering the season, right? Ty Simpson was kind of that veteran, waited his turn. He was well thought of, don't get me wrong, but he was not included in that upper echelon of quarterback talk in the Southeastern Conference because he was just an unknown, right? Despite being a veteran, very much unknown because he hadn't played an awful lot. But here we are halfway through the season, entering the third Saturday in October, and the two best quarterbacks in the Southeastern Conference, bar none, is Ty Simpson and Joey Aguilar. But here's where I have some issues here. One is getting a lot of Heisman talk. One is getting national love and praise, and it's deserving, right? Ty Simpson is having a phenomenal year, and he deserves it. But why isn't Joey Aguilar being held in that same vein? Like, he's getting some talk, but if you look at all these Heisman odds and everything, I mean, Aguilar is way down the list compared to Ty Simpson, whereas both quarterbacks are putting up very, very similar numbers. We're going to dive into those numbers, a deep dive in here in segment number 1. I think the biggest difference is perception, right? Alabama's Alabama, okay? Also, Alabama's been hotter than a hiccup. Won 3 straight conference games against ranked opponents. They're beating good teams, and they're hot. So that's one thing. Also, Ty Simpson has also not turned the football over but one time this year, whereas if you look at the stat sheet, Joey Aguilar has thrown 5 picks, and despite, you and I know that, several of those were not necessarily on him, but it is what it is. So that's the biggest difference, and I can understand that. Reasonable minds can understand, okay, well, Aguilar's turned the ball over 5 times, Ty Simpson's turned the ball over 1 time. Okay, well, maybe that, is a big reason for it as well. But let's dive down into some of these stats and get into the nitty-gritty here. Joey Aguilar leads the SEC in passing yards with 1,680. Ty Simpson is second, 2 yards shy, 1,678. So very comparable in terms of yards passing, with Joey Aguilar the slightest of slight edges in that regard. Let's look at passing touchdowns. Well, you have Ty Simpson, who leads the SEC with 16, and that's 2 more than Joey Aguilar, Diego Pavia, and Taylon Green, who have 14. So it's a 3-way tie for second with 14 passing touchdowns, but Ty Simpson is the clear leader, 2 ahead of the pack with 16. Okay, advantage right there goes to Ty Simpson. Here's some other examples of where Ty Simpson has an advantage. Go to completion percentage. Ty Simpson's been really good. He's third in the SEC, completing 70% of his passes, where Aguilar is ninth in the SEC with a respectable 64.9 completion percentage. That's not bad, but it is ninth, and it's about 5 and some change lower than where Ty Simpson is. Let's go to QB rating. Ty Simpson leads the SEC with a 172.4 quarterback rating. Joey Aguilar is fourth at 164.5. So again, very respectable, right? But technically Joey Aguilar is third. The backup quarterback for Florida is here in a tie for fourth. I guess Joey Aguilar would be fourth alone. He's tied for fourth here with the backup quarterback for Florida, but that's 12 attempts to the 118 from Joey Aguilar. Also, you want to look at passing or rushing yards. Ty Simpson's gained a lot of ground, but he's been sacked 11 times or 12 times. So his net rushing yards is actually like 59 yards. He does have 2 scores. He's gained about 150 on the ground, but his net rushing yards is like 59. He has 2 touchdowns. Joey Aguilar, well, he had 59 yards last game on the ground against Arkansas. He had a 21 against Mississippi State, 11 against UAB. He lost 8 against Georgia, had none against ETSU, and I don't have the list in terms of Syracuse to see what he ran for. Syracuse, he ran for 34 yards. So Joey Aguilar has more rushing yards. He has 117 net rushing yards, also 2 rushing touchdowns. So very comparable in that regard. Let's dive into the Pro Football Focus stats that matter in terms of passing yards down the field. Ty Simpson passes 20 yards or more down the field. He's 12 of 20, so 20 attempts, completing 60% of his passes for 350 yards, 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Joey Aguilar has 14 of 27 for a completion percentage of 51.9. So his completion percentage is worse, not by much, but worse, but he has 7 more pass attempts down the field than Ty Simpson, and he has 2 more completions. 557 yards. He has more yards, 8 touchdowns to 1 interception. So down the field passing, both very good. Advantage Joey Aguilar in that regard. Intermediate passing, 10 to 19 yards. Ty Simpson, 33 for 52, completing 63% of his passes, 5 touchdowns, no interceptions for 585 yards. All right, so that's 52 attempts, completing 63% of his passes. Joey Aguilar, 10 of 19, 42 attempts, 61.9% completion. So very comparable, 402 yards, 4 touchdowns, 1 interception. These 2 guys in the intermediate game, very, very comparable. And then again, the completion percentages go way up the shorter you or the closer you get to the line of scrimmage. Short passing game within 10 yards. Joey Aguilar is 51 of 72, completing 70% of his passes, 495, but here's where it is. Aguilar's thrown 3 interceptions at this range compared to just 1 touchdown. Ty Simpson passes 0 to 10 yards. He is 48 to 64, completing 75% of his passes, 392 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So there's a difference there. But, deep balls down the field, advantage Aguilar. Okay? Not by much, but advantage Aguilar in my opinion. Intermediate passing, very comparable. Probably slight advantage Simpson, but extremely comparable in that regard. So my point in this whole segment is this. 2 good quarterbacks, 2 surprises when you look at it from a regional or a college football glance. Okay, 2 surprises at the quarterback position, but one guy in Ty Simpson, deservingly so, is getting a lot of praise nationally, while the other guy in Joey Aguilar, who, by the way, leads the nation's #1 offense, is not getting as much praise. I don't understand how that makes sense. Maybe it's as simple as the turnovers. Maybe it's as simple as Aguilar's turned the football over 4 more times than Simpson. And again, I understand that. But the stats, very comparable. What we do know is both these quarterbacks are playing phenomenal football for their respective teams. I'm excited to see what they look like on Saturday in this third Saturday in October rivalry at Alabama. 7:30 Eastern time is the kick. When we come back, going to take a look at some potential trash talk, and will it even make a difference? Because last week it didn't, to be completely honest with you. That's coming up next. We continue on here this Thursday, Locked On Vols. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep by tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? SupplyHouse has next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer right there. The Part Finder tool and 3D schematics save you hours on the job, where every single detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother than ever. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5. That's SHCollege5 at 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. The NFL season is here. College football season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down just $5, and if it hits, you're going to unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using the FanDuel Sportsbook app, specifically on Sundays when I'm at home. I'm still working a lot, not like on location on Saturdays for the Tennessee games, but I've got NFL games on right over here. I'm watching my fantasy players. I'm watching my team. I'm not very good, the Tennessee Titans. But it makes everything a little bit more interesting. Player props, live in-game betting, futures as well. College basketball season's coming up. You got futures in that regard. There's something for everyone over at FanDuel Sportsbook. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. That's FanDuel.com, where you can make every moment more. All right, guys, we've got Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps coming up next for Throwback Thursday, coming up in segment number 3, I should say. Throwback Thursday, reliving play number 1 that changed everything, 1995, Tennessee and Alabama. You do not want to miss this conversation to get you set for the third Saturday in October. Coming up this weekend. But that's coming up in segment number 3, my chat with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Corps. All right, so for the second straight week, we have an opponent looking at a little bit of bulletin board material, or at least giving Tennessee potentially some bulletin board material to look at. Alabama wide receiver Germie Bernard had this to say about facing Tennessee's secondary. This was on the Next Round podcast earlier this week. He said, quote, "They like to play man-to-man. They want to bring the house. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for our offense. They give up a lot of yards, but that's because they have trust and belief in their guys to get the job done. For us to have the opportunity to go against man-to-man, it's a field of dreams. That's what receivers want, those one-on-one matchups. It's just going to be up to us to go out there and make the plays," end quote. Guys, I got to be honest with you. I really don't have an issue with what he had to say. Okay, I know a lot of people just want to cling to anything. Fan short for fanatic, short for fan short for fanatic. I get all that. And I understand I'm talking about it here on an episode of Locked On Vols because it's people like me that keep these stories alive, right? I have no issue with what he had to say. I watched the clip. I didn't take that as him being disrespectful or anything. I mean, the only thing that you could take and point to of saying, wow, man, that guy was just, really, really rude or disrespectful, if you want to point to something, it would be they give up a lot of yards, and that's because they have trust and belief in their guys to get the job done. They give up a lot of yards. I mean, that's potentially the only disrespectful thing he said. Also, what he said is factually correct. Obviously, Tennessee's pass defense is not good. It hasn't been good to this point. Despite the sacks of the defense in general, despite the takeaways and the opportunistic plays that Tennessee's made. Opportunistic is the word of the week for me. I've said it a gajillion times, right? But he's not wrong in that regard. And I watched the clip. I watched the video clip. I don't think that he was necessarily trying to like start anything or anything. And this is why, because he ends on a really, really, high note. For us to have the opportunity to go against man-to-man, it's a field of dreams. That's what receivers want, those one-on-one matchups. He's not talking specifically about Tennessee. Any wide receiver would say they want a chance to go beat somebody one-on-one, just like any defensive back would tell you, hey, we love man because it's me against you. Someone's going to win. And any defensive back would tell you that they love man-on-man coverage, man coverage as well. He also says it's just up for us to go out there and make the plays. So again, I really have no issue, especially since I saw the video, and maybe I'm in the minority here. I have no issue with what he had to say. Number one, he's factually correct. Tennessee does give up a lot of yards. And speaking from a wide receiver's point of view, going against somebody in man-to-man coverage, that is a field of dreams. But everybody's going to take away the comment, field of dreams, and give up a lot of yards. And that's fair too, right? He probably, if you're an Alabama SID, you're probably sitting here like, man, don't do that. Don't do that. Why'd you do that? Even though a guy like me, I really have no issue with what he had to say. But it is something that can be quote-unquote bulletin board material. Now, my question is, will it matter? Will it make a difference? Last week, Arkansas running back transfer from New Mexico State, Mike Washington, said that Tennessee has a lot of holes in its defense, and so it's going to be a fun day. That was way more disrespectful than anything Germie Bernard had to say, in my opinion. Now, I said on last week's show, like, I understand that. What you said also is factually correct, but why poke the bear? Why poke the bear? I mean, remember, Arkansas was a near 2-touchdown underdog coming into Neyland Stadium. Like, why poke the bear? Turns out Mike Washington went out there, and first play from scrimmage for him was like, what, a 30-some-odd yard run? He backed it up. He played really, really well. So he talked the trash, and he backed it up. Germie Bernard is Alabama's best wide receiver. He does a little bit of everything for the Crimson Tide. Everybody thinks of Ryan Williams, who's been a bit beat up here lately. A lot of people think about the new transfer from Miami and Isaiah Horton, who is really good in the red zone. Obviously has a past relationship with Ty Simpson playing 7-on-7 back in high school. Germie Bernard, the guy that followed Kalen DeBoer from Washington, has been the best wide receiver for Alabama in the last 2 years, statistically speaking. Yet Ryan Williams is going to get all the headlines. He's had a really, really good year. You go look at his stat sheet right now. He leads Alabama in receptions with 28, yards with 42, and touchdown receptions with 5. He is second amongst the main 3 wide receivers with an average of 14 yards per reception, and he's averaging 68 receiving yards per game. He's a really, really good player. So again, his comments on the Next Round podcast, I really take no issue to it. And I know I'm probably in the minority in that regard, but this is the second straight week where an opposing offensive skill player has come in and had some type of shot towards, intended or unintended, to the Tennessee defense. Last week, didn't make a difference. Can it make a difference this week? Do you need any more extra motivation to go on the road and play in the SEC, go on the road and have a great chance to reel off a signature win for your CFP, for your college football playoff chances, and play against arguably your biggest rival and arguably one of the best rivalry games in all college football, the third Saturday in October? Do you even need extra motivation? Probably not. Will it make a difference? We will see. But certainly I wanted to touch on some of those comments from Germie Bernard, Alabama wide receiver, on what he had to say about Tennessee's, the opportunity to go up against Tennessee's defensive backs and man-to-man, saying, quote, it could be a field of dreams, end quote. He goes on to say a bunch of other stuff. So nonetheless, thought that was kind of interesting. Hey, when we come back, let's go back to 1995, Legion Field, and let's relive that big win Tennessee had over Alabama at the time. Play number 1. John Ward had the beautiful call. Noah Taylor relived all those that night in his Substack article earlier this week with Neyland Press Corps, and you saw it on VolQuest as well. Going to talk to Noah Taylor about that 1995 win for Tennessee that snapped the streak and started a streak of their own, and what is characterized as a streaky rivalry. That is coming up next for Throwback Thursday, segment number 3, when we return. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more I always stumble at that part. IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August of this past year. From footwork to breath work, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings the same attention to how they craft every single model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to the available Napa leathery upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, where you can move and you can be moved. One of the best games, really, for Tennessee, I guess, in this rivalry, the infamous third Saturday in October, was back in 1995 at Legion Field in Birmingham, when Tennessee snapped a 9-game winless streak against the Alabama Crimson Tide, 41-14, that sparked an 8-game win streak for the University of Tennessee in this series. It was play number 1, Noah Taylor, Peyton Manning, Joey Kent. John Ward had the beautiful call. You kind of revisited this game, talked to a number of people, Brent Hubbs, Mike Keith on the Vol Radio Network. You talked to Joey Kent. This is probably my favorite story you've done so far, reliving the great night that was in 1995, Tennessee over Alabama, 41-14. It was up on your Substack Monday morning at Neyland Press Corps. It was on VolQuest, where you can find a lot of your work now as well. VolQuest on Tuesday morning. Man, what a play that was. What a game that was. But it all started with play number 1 from Peyton Manning to Joey Kent.
Yeah, massive game. And before that, I want to give a shout out, obviously, to Brent Hubbs and you guys at VolQuest for an incredible opportunity. Excited to have the stories there. I know a lot of people that watch this read that site, so that's exciting. Yeah, so very grateful for that. And to get to the story, a game that 30 years ago yesterday was played at Legion Field in Birmingham. One a lot of Tennessee fans remember. I think maybe it's refreshing for some people to watch this and talk about a game that they were alive for. I feel like I've written a lot about games where nobody's alive anymore for those, but one that people remember really well. It kind of starts in 85. Tennessee wins that game at Legion Field at the day Tony Robinson suffered a season-ending, really his Tennessee career-ending injury. Dale Jones had the late interception to win that game by 2. And then Tennessee doesn't win again in that rivalry for a while. They tie the game in 1990. 93, which, talking to Brent Hubbs and Mike Keith, they remember that one very well. I'm sure a lot of people do, because it was one where Tennessee just was the better team the entire game, it seemed like, until the final drive when Alabama was able to win the game late. So there was a lot of heartbreak. There was a lot of frustration during that 9-game winless streak, where Tennessee, early in the 90s was a really good football program. Very elite, but for whatever reason, it just could not beat Alabama. So 95, you kind of let out all those frustrations, and it starts with play number 1. Joey Kent, kind enough to talk to me about that. Obviously, he started the legendary play. I'm sure a lot of fans are familiar with that. And it all started because of his memory of this. He was asked over the years about that 1995 game, what went into that play. He would talk about it, go into the X's and O's of it. And one of his business partners had heard him tell the story over the years and thought, why don't you draw the play out, print it up on a poster, and we'll maybe market that. And they've got an incredible business, a really cool thing. I'm sure a lot of fans have that as well. But Joey Kent talked about it. He said, we didn't know, we had run that play before. Alabama lined up in a cover 3. We didn't think that made much sense against a 4-receiver set, but that's what they did. Joey Kent was kind of worried they were disguising the defense to bait them into it. But when they saw them line up, he said, me and Peyton looked at each other. We had a good connection. I knew the pass was coming to me based on the way Peyton looked at me. He said, I thought it could go for about 20, 25 yards. And the next thing you know, obviously the rest is history. He breaks open over the middle, makes the guy miss, and then outruns the rest of the defense to the end zone. And then Tennessee just pours it on that night from that point on. Maybe a little moment there where it got a little hairy, where Alabama pulled within 2, and some memories come pouring back about the way Alabama was able to pull out wins against Tennessee. But Jay Graham put it away for good with a third-quarter touchdown, and Tennessee goes on to win, like you said, one of the most memorable games that they've ever had, certainly against Alabama.
Yeah, and you do a great job of kind of detailing firsthand accounts of the celebrations. Again, you spoke with Mike Keith, you spoke with Brent Hubbs. I believe it was Brent that was down in the locker room to go and do some post-game stuff, and players celebrating, all the cigar smoke, obviously. But you have, administrators crying, like fans, boosters cry. Like, again, when I say this game, I said it all week, this game means so much to so many different people on both sides. That's like a clear example of just how much it means. You had a note in here about Philip Fulmer just jubilant in the post-game locker room. Didn't care who was in the locker room as long as they were wearing orange, right? And I thought that was a really cool point of how you detailed the celebration in this game. But back to the play where John Moore, just one of his incredible calls in all of his career of Tennessee's play-by-play voice. And, what did he do? All he did was score. Joey Kent, touchdown Tennessee on play number 1. And you talked to Hubs, you talked to Mike Keith, who were both in the booth that night, and watching John Moore go to work. But my takeaway from this part of the story was, they were just jubilant. They were just so excited, and they couldn't really contain their excitement. But if you work with John Moore, and I've heard this from several different people in my relationship with the Vol Network, it was tough sometimes, right? I mean, he demanded excellence, and he was like, "Hey, stop being a fan. Hey, stop. Stop cheering. There's no cheering here. Be professional." And Steve Early, he yelled at Steve Early one time, and then as you so greatly detail from Mike Keith's account, it's halftime. Mike Keith's doing the broadcast or the halftime show. Ward walks out of the booth, and at the first commercial break, he turns around and imitates John Ward yelling at Steve Early, who would go on to be the general manager of the Vol Network for many years. And he's got the whole booth cracking up, and then Ward walks back in and yells again at Steve Early. That's hilarious. I think that's such a cool part of this story, Noah.
Yeah, it was funny, and listening to Mike tell it was great. And Brent, too. Brent, there was something, the story, there was just so much I didn't want to leave out. So it's long. It's a long read if you got the time, but it's fun. And that's certainly one of my favorite parts of it. But there were other parts of it that I just didn't fit in there. And one was Brent when he told me all this is going on. And, there's moments in the game where Mike is kind of nudging him a little bit like, man, we're really doing like Tennessee's really, really putting it on them. They've been waiting a long time for this. And Brent told me, he was like, yeah, I'm sitting there like, no way. I'm not cheering. I'm not smiling. I don't want John Ward to see me, like excited over this, like I'm a fan, because they knew the professionalism. They knew what John Ward wanted out of a booth. But like you said, it's a little bit hard to contain those emotions because these are guys like Brent, Mike, and Steve that they grew up Tennessee fans. They grew up, watching this rivalry and it was a big night for them. It was a big night for everybody involved with Tennessee. But I thought that was a great story. And the funny thing about it is actually I had the idea for this story for a long time. And 2018, I was at the Daily Beacon, and John Ward had passed away. And a few days later, they had his memorial service at Thompson Bowling Arena, and had everybody, a who's who of Tennessee royalty that spoke at that. Coach Dickey was there, Philip Fulmer, and then Mike Keith spoke, Charles Davis spoke, and Mike told us this story about Steve Early and about, and I thought that's hilarious. That's awesome. What a great perspective of that night. And I thought I'd really like to tell that story one day. And here we are. Now Mike is the voice of the Vols, which is awesome. And then obviously we're on 30 years since that game. So I thought now was the perfect time, and just appreciate those guys sharing that story with me. It was awesome stuff. And if you got the time to read it, I think that part of it is worth your time, just from the way those guys detailed that night.
This story that Noah wrote, detailing and speaking and everything. I mean, it's, so many different people. It could be split off into like 3 different stories. It's that good. So yeah, I concur. Go read it. Just look at another quote here that you got from Brent Hubbs. Quote, "To be in the booth and see him and hear him call it all for a young broadcaster, it was pretty daggone special. It was pretty special." Mike Keith on John Ward calling that game. Quote, "He was masterful. He called a masterful game. It just added to the lore." A lot of great stuff there again on what was one of the best nights in Tennessee football history, specifically in this rivalry as well. And of course, we'll see what's in store for Tennessee and Alabama this weekend. It'll be in Tuscaloosa, a place Tennessee hasn't won since 2003. We'll see if Tennessee can pull it off. But go read all of Noah's work. This one is, if you listen to this segment every single week, but you haven't checked any of it out, start with this one. I promise you won't be disappointed. That's a Substack. The link is in the show notes. And, of course, you can catch it as well, VolQuest.com. If you have a subscription, we put that out there earlier this week. Noah, I don't know how you're going to top this, man, but what do you think you have in store coming up next week for Kentucky?
Yeah, I'm excited. I've got something I've been working on for a little while. This is the 60th anniversary of Tennessee's 1965 season. Talked to Coach Dickey and Dewey Warren over the summer about that season specifically. It was kind of a year of up and downs for Tennessee. The three assistant coaches that were killed in the car train collision in Knoxville a couple days after tying Alabama at Legion Field. And just how Tennessee persevered, how they kind of rallied from that to just have a really strong close that year and then beat number 5 UCLA in Memphis. Really excited to tell that story. I think they got some good stuff with that. And then going to plug for some piece of history here for third Saturday in October. Thought I'd pull this out for today. This is the cover of Sports Illustrated, 1967, after Tennessee beat Alabama at Legion Field, which is also a very memorable game. So thought I'd throw that in there just for this sacred week, I guess.
Yeah, if you haven't noticed, if you follow Noah long enough, you'll know that he is obsessed with the Tennessee football 1965 season.
Yeah.
So a lot of good stories there, but he's exactly right. All right, check it all out. Noah, as always, man, thanks so much. Hey, great work, and really enjoyed reading that the other day.
Thanks as always, Eric, for having me on.
Great stuff there. Great conversation with Noah Taylor of Neyland Press Court, going back and reliving what a great night it was in Tennessee football history. 1995, Tennessee's win over Alabama. Oh, man, could there be some other great moments in this rivalry's history coming up on Saturday night? One can hope, and one can hope that it can be in favor of the Big Orange, just like it was back in 2022. Chase McGrath's field goal to win it at the buzzer to snap the 15-game losing skid. Maybe like Will Brooks' interception to kind of seal the deal for Tennessee last year and the win against Alabama at home at Neyland Stadium. We'll see what Saturday has in store for this iteration of the third Saturday in October. Great stuff as always there from Noah Taylor. All right, fun show. Looking at Joey Aguilar, Ty Simpson, throwing it back to 95, talking about Germie Bernard's comments. Tomorrow's show, I'll give you my keys to a win, keys to pulling off an upset win over Alabama on the road in a place that Tennessee hasn't won since 2003. It's coming up on tomorrow's show as we continue on here on Locked On Vols. Guys, gals, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate you as always. This has been Locked On Vols.